I'm going to give you a couple of quotes in my translation of them, and I'll give it over to you to tell me what you think of it. First quote, it's a key Breslow quote on the decision. Performance on the field has not been what we expected. And beyond that, again, this is a decisive and convicted demonstration of the confidence we have in our player group. My translation, we're not blaming the players. We think they can play. The staff couldn't get it out of them. Is that what you think too? Is that what that means to you?
To me, that also screams lack of accountability. He's basically saying, like, I did my job. I put together a good team. He can't get the most out of it. When the reality is, we talked about this a bunch, the dude had 4 different quotes across 4 different months of the offseason talking about we're going to add a big power bat. And they never did it. They never did it. And
Caleb Durbin.
Exactly. No, but that's what I'm saying is like, there's no accountability. And then like, you can't outwardly say that's a goal, not achieve it. And then later be like, well, actually, we think we have enough in house. I'm like, I know you don't believe that because why wouldn't you have said that at the start of the offseason yet? So there's no accountability from Breslow whatsoever. He basically self-admitted that he didn't add a guy that he wanted to. And then now he's saying we have full belief in the roster and that we think it's a really good roster. And I'm like, well, I bet you think that because you put it together.
64 deep, a Red Sox podcast. Big John and Sean, hot takes, special guests. This is 64 deep. Hey.
After 2 long weeks, finally, we have returned to the studio. We are the most electrifying podcast in Red Sox Nation. I am your co-host, Big John. Alongside of me, Sean, Casey Jones at bat. And together we are 64 Deep, a Red Sox podcast. Sean, people that are tuning in right now, they want us to talk about one thing and one thing only. And that's how the Red Sox are going to win their second series of the year against the Baltimore Orioles. That's what they want to talk about. No.
Yeah.
We all know. Look,
nothing else happened.
Nothing else happened. I loved Jared Carrabis' tweet yesterday before it happened, saying it's the Red Wedding. The Red Wedding was happening, and he couldn't have been more right on it. Alex Cora fired after 8 seasons. This is not news to anyone today on a Sunday. Everyone that's tuned in is very well aware that Cora got the axe, but fired after 8 seasons, a World Series title in 2018, 620 wins, 541 losses, a 534 record, third most managerial wins in franchise history. Signed a mid-extension, signed a 3-year, $21.75 million deal, $21.75 million deal in July, covering 25 through 27. So he's roughly $7.25 million year one, highest paid managers in baseball. They had to eat that contract. Decision was made Saturday morning. Henry, Kennedy, and Breslow flew to Baltimore and delivered the news in person at the team hotel after the Orioles game. This is the first in-season managerial firing under Fenway Sports Group ownership since they bought the team in 2002. Last in-season change was Jimmy Williams, Joe Kerrigan in August of 2000, which I very much remember. And Joe Kerrigan might have been one of the greatest pitching coaches of all time. So when they transitioned to him, and especially for Jimmy Williams, actually Red Sox Nation wasn't really Red Sox Nation yet, but we all were behind that move. I'm going to give you the full body count. Peter Fatsi, hitting coach, gone. Ramon Vasquez, bench coach, gone. Kyle Hudson, third base coach, outfield instructor, gone. Dylan Lawson, assistant hitting coach, gone. Joe Cronin, major league hitting strategy coach, gone. We know that Varitek was reassigned, not fired, but that's a move to save face for one of the Red Sox greats.
Yeah,
and then replaced by.
I saw something online that said he was fired, essentially. He's
new role,
out.
TBD.
We'll say that.
It's like you go, here's your gold watch, go home. We'll give you some fake consulting job. But if anyone asks, you're still on the payroll. The replacements are Chad Tracy, who looks just like Craig Breslow. I mean, they're spitting images. He's a Worcester manager coming to interim MLB manager for the year. Chad Epperson, Portland Sea Dogs manager since 2022. He's the interim third base coach. And Colin Hetzler, he's a Worcester hitting coach. Now he's on the MLB hitting staff. I gave you the rundown of what happened. I know you told me last night that you have a lot of thoughts on this game, on this team. Hit me with your thoughts first before we get to drinking the beers. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, first of all,
you found out. First of all, you found out yesterday, Sean. What did you think?
Mm-hmm. I was very surprised, just given that we are still in April, doing something this drastic, cleaning full house, not just Cora, but pretty much anybody in that dugout that was associated with Cora. Which, look, I think there had been rumors of a shakeup of like maybe just firing Fatsy and like because the offense hasn't been great or something like that. But to just completely can Cora on April 25th, I was extremely surprised. And to be honest with you, like we'll get into it more, but I was pretty pissed off by it. I know I've seen your tweets that you thought that it was, whether you think it was the right move or at least a justified move. To me, it is nothing, absolutely nothing but a scapegoat. And this front office continuing to have zero accountability for anything that they do. And yeah, they're going to look at the 10-17 record and probably put most of the blame on Cora when, his body of work is 10 times better than anything Breslow has to show when you look at his resume and the moves that he's made and the success of this team since he took over. Cora's success precedes that. And I don't know. I've always been a Cora guy, and I'm going to continue to be. I still think he is one of the best managers in baseball. And I think other teams saw this move, and they were happy about it. I think people across the industry looked at this move and said, the Red Sox lost one of the best baseball minds they had in that organization. And so, like I said, we can get into more of the details, but those are my initial thoughts. I think this is a peak scapegoat type move.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Me and you are going to disagree on some things, and believe it or not, we're going to agree on more things than you think we're going to agree on this one. I had been a Cora apologist for years. I've always backed him and blamed it on Kyan Bloom and Craig Breslow. But I'll talk about why I believe everything should have been cleared out, Cora included, and Breslow, and if I could have my druthers too, Sam Kennedy. I want them all gone.
And John
I don't
Henry.
look at. Well, that's never going to happen.
Sure.
Look, I know Henry gets a lot of flack for what he does and for this team itself. I'm also a New York Giants fan, and that's a hot mess over there too. And that's not for a lack of trying. That's just not understanding how to run a baseball team. Henry's spending money. And for all those people out there saying Henry's making a lot of these moves, he's not. I'm telling you from a guy who works in a corporate world, who sees how the higher up actually works, the bureaucracy that happens. I'm telling you guys, Henry's not making as many moves as you think he is. He's approving budget. He's approving spend. And you saw it today where Kennedy basically put Breslow on an island and said this was Breslow's decision. And that's how a lot of corporations are actually run. So my problem with Henry is, look, he's just not putting the right people on the spot because they have the 7th highest payroll in Major League Baseball. We talked about on this pod in the offseason and how much I love the Pirates' moves of getting O'Hearn. Ozuna backfired in their face, of getting Brandon Lau. Those have worked out extremely well. Breslow could have made those moves. Here, before we crack open our beer, and now here's where I'll start to agree with you, and we'll probably deviate from here. When the New York Mets fired Willie Randolph, because I live in the area, I live in the metropolitan area in the New York area, there was nothing but absolute backlash on the fan for how they went about firing Willie Randolph. I believe it was a West Coast trip. I think it was San Diego. He flies out to San Diego. They may have won the series or they won a game or two, and then fire him immediately after that West Coast trip. And all the backlash about the organization, how mismanaged the Mets organization was at the time, is you couldn't have fired him before you went out to the West Coast. And my problem with this move as well is you knew you were probably going to fire Cora anyways. Why didn't you just fire him after the Yankees series? Why did you make them and the team go on the bus to Baltimore to let them play out 2 games and then fire him? Because you knew you were going to do it. So either you fire him after the Yankee series or you wait till he comes back home and fire him anyways. That's what kind of pisses me off, and that's the unprofessionalism of that front office that I just don't like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 17-1 game yesterday, so there's absolutely nothing about the game yesterday that could have had anything to do with this. They said
they already
it was
had their
made
minds
the decision
made up
in the morning, but that tells me that, so basically that game on Friday, like that was the game you were going to decide it on. Like that's silly. So they basically had to sweep or else he was going to get fired. And so to your point, it's like, that's silly to me. Like just, rip the Band-Aid off if you were going to do it. I totally agree with what you're saying too. Like, but that's what just, it's all back to the same issue of just general incompetence in the front office. It's not just the moves and the roster and personnel that we haven't been happy with. It's just the general communication, professionalism. Like how they've handled relationships inside and outside the organization. And it's just been a disaster, and it's trickled down into, the players on the field and also into the roster moves. Like, I think most people across the baseball industry probably think that we're a joke right now. Like, just with how much of a disaster, and like it's so, what makes it more frustrating is like there have been so many things like still good things that have happened within the organization, between like talent that we've had, or like, they did make the playoffs last year. It hasn't been that long since they won the World Series, but it's like they're leaving so much meat on the bone. It's like the potential for this franchise with the market and the brand and the money that they could have, and all the talent that they sort of have inherited. Like, Breslow inherited a shit ton of talent. It's not like he was starting from scratch in some small team market. And it's like every just move after move after move. And it's like, that is what makes it more frustrating. Like, if they were just zero talent on the roster, they didn't have all the money, they didn't have the history of winning the brand, it would probably be a lot easier to swallow a lot of these pills, but because we know what this team can be, and just, I don't know, it just makes it so frustrating when they're leaving meat on the bones like this, and a lot of meat.
Sixth to seventh highest payroll. Remember that he's got that. So for those out there saying the Red Sox don't spend anymore, yeah, they don't spend like the 2004 Red Sox, 2007 Red Sox, but they still have a pretty high payroll and inherited one of the best minor league talent pool. They're number one last year. And I'll give Breslow's. This is where I'll give Breslow a lot. The only place I'll give him credit, either him or his scouts, has done a phenomenal job of finding pitching talent. We might get into some of the down the farm conversation as well. So he's done a really good job there as well. But again, look, this is why Breslow and that front office gets paid millions of dollars, and we don't. Look what the Pirates did this offseason. You could have had Brandon Lau. You could have had Ryan O'Hearn. This team was only a couple of bats away. That's all we were looking to get, was a couple of bats. Other teams were going to do it. Yeah, Bichette hasn't looked good. Devers has looked terrible to start the year. Alonso hasn't been off to the fastest start. Bregman's actually played better than I thought he would be. But that's why you're Craig Breslow and I'm Big John. And that's why I'm here with you doing a podcast, and you're on there wearing Peter Millar quarter zips, making millions of dollars, because it's on you to figure out how to make this team better, and you have a bounty of riches to do it. Instead, you get guys like Johan Oviedo, who probably won't even pitch again this year. And that's what's so frustrating about the front office. And look, we'll crack open the beer, but I will say that I believe Cora needed to go because this whole culture needed to change. I wanted everyone to go, which I'm actually pissed off that Andrew Bailey and his staff is still there. And I also want Breslow and them to go. And I will say on record that this team's misfortunes, majority of it falls on Breslow. And this is the sad truth, and you might just need to accept it. It's a process. They are a business that is process-oriented. You're not going to be able to get Breslow fired until Cora got fired. That's just how it's going. That's how it is. Breslow was never going to go first. Look at the New York Giants this year. Joe Shane, and I'm going to football, and Brian Daboll. For them to bring John Harbaugh in, Daboll had to lose his job first, and now Shane might lose his job as well, but it was never going to be that Shane was going to lose his job and Daboll, right?
Coach / manager, which is the coach equivalent in baseball, like, they're always the first to go. And I totally understand that, but I don't know. Let's do the beers and we'll get into it.
Well, I gotta find my beer button now. I'm off on a tangent. I did my beer button up. I have to go find my beer button. So let's do what we do every episode and drink some beers.
To the Red Sox. Drinking beers.
Cheers.
Drink some beers. Big John and Sean. We're drinking beers. Drinking beers. Drink some beers.
All right, Sean, what do you got tonight? Let me guess. It's a hazy IPA.
It is. I am trying to remember. I may have had this one on one of the first episodes. It is a Sweetwater Brewing Company, local Atlanta brewery. They do distribute across the East Coast as well. But this is Tropical High, their hazy IPA, which I've had many, many times just because it is local, but very solid one. And I actually picked it up on. There's this very fun festival that goes on once a year in one of the neighborhoods that is very close to where I live, called Inman Park Fest. They do beautiful, like, historic architecture type homes that you can get tickets to, like, do tours of the homes. So it's very fun. But they have a lot of really local, good local art, like music and different things. But then they had drinks and lots of food stands as well. So walked over there with my fiance earlier, picked this up, and then brought it back to have for this. What do you have?
What's it called? Tropical
High.
So I'm bringing back a repeat. It's another backyard, back east one. It's just traditional New England style lager. It's just a beer. It's one of, like I said, the one I call beers. But you know what I had? It was interesting. On Friday, I had a sour. I actually like sours. I know they're out of style, but I grabbed myself a sour at a local brewery. They called it Green Slime. It was green and tasted like an Ecto Cooler for those that are old enough to remember.
Funny.
Yeah, the beer was actually, the sour was green. I don't know what they use for that, because to make sours, you either use yogurt probiotics or milk lactose probiotics to make it. So I don't know what they put in to make it green. It was pretty good though. I don't know. We talked about before. I thought you were sort of into sours before, but you just kind of run your course with you.
Yeah, I like a good sour. There's this brewery in Atlanta called Three Taverns that is like kind of particularly known for having good sours. So I definitely have theirs every once in a while. I don't think I'm going to be ripping like 4 sours consecutively. More of like a one sour per sitting kind of guy, but I do like them.
All right, done with the beer. Let's get into it. The Cora talk. I'm going to start off with how bad the offense has been. We can talk about whether it's a Cora issue or a Breslow issue or a combination of both. But I'm going to start with how bad the offense has been. I believe the Red Sox just finalized a 1-5.
I'm kind of pissed they scored 17 runs yesterday because it's like going to inflate all their stats. And I'm just like...
Well, I'm going to give you the numbers before the 17-1 explosion. So through 26 games before 17-1 explosion, they're hitting 226, 306, 335 as a team. Tied for last in Major League Baseball in home runs with 18. 22nd in runs scored with 112. Worst OPS against fastballs in MLB, 621, which is interesting. 9th in weighted runs created plus 78. 1 home run off fastballs all year out of 288 hit league wide. Let that set in. That's really interesting. 4th highest ground ball rate against fastballs, 38.2%. Bottom 10 in whiff rate and chase rate, which we've talked about before, that is terrible. And they're splitting through pitches and taking strikes. I mean, pick a lane on that one. So offense has been atrocious to start the season. We all agree to that one. And a lot of us want to come after Peter Fatsy for that one. Let me throw something out about Cora and some other people as well. And Cora himself has said it before, is that this game as a manager is a shelf life game. I kind of heard Lou Merlone talk about it today as well. I talked about it yesterday. Lou and I don't agree 100% on things, but I do agree with him on this take. And I've seen a lot of managers, great managers that have run their courses, and within the pocket, you understand. Without outside the pocket, like you said, the rest of the organization's baseball, they look at it and say, you guys are crazy. Joe Torre with the Yankees, crazy, right? To have Joe Torre ever be fired, but he was run out of New York after multiple World Series. I watched my New York Giants with Tom Coughlin. Patriot fans can see it happening with Belichick. We're watching with Cora as well. Eventually, managers, Terry Francona after his 8 years, managers get stale after a while, and there needs to be a culture shifted on it. And then there's also another saying too is, look, I'm very much aware that just because Cora is gone does not mean this gets better. There is a long line of when this happens, whether it's Belichick or Coughlin with the Giants, who are still reeling. We're hopefully Harbaugh's the guy. I mean, the Yankees were able to do it with Girardi. They won 1 World Series, and they've been competitive since then, but nowhere near the success that Torre has had. They're the exception. But there is no guarantee that getting out from Cora's thumb means that anything is going to change about this team. I'm fully aware of that one. But my point of this is that there needs to be a culture shift with this team, and I would say no fault to Cora himself. And that's the reason why I think he needs to be gone, as well as the front office too. That's my quick take on the Cora one. I can dive more and we'll get more into. I'll talk about some of the bad decisions Cora has made as well, because he's not without some fault in this one, even though I'd say the majority of them belongs to the front office. What are your thoughts, Sean? What's your take?
I hear you on the shelf life thing, and I do think that is true in a lot of cases, but where I will slightly disagree is a lot of the analogies and like comparisons you made. It's like, yeah, Joe Torre, he got run out of town, but let me read you players that were on his roster on his last season. Robinson Cano, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, Hideki Matsui, Bobby Abreu, Johnny Damon, Jason Giambi, Andy Pettit, Mike Messina, Roger Clemens, Mariano Rivera. Like, if he's not winning with that, then I kind of get it. Whereas, Cora has just been dealt a terrible deck. I mean, this every single year, and since we've had this podcast, the main thing we talk about is that the front office is not providing him with enough talent. And it's also like the fit thing, which Breslow did. I at least am happy he acknowledged that he even told Cora that, he can admit that it probably hasn't been the easiest roster to manage given the overlap it positionally. But it's like you can have you can have a misfit roster if you've got a ton of talent, and you can maybe have less talent if all the pieces fit together really nicely. But you can't have both. You can't have not that much talent and the pieces don't fit together well. And it's like, I just don't know, like, again, are they better than 10-17, 11-17 now? They just won today. Like, sure. But like year after year after year, this guy has been handed the short stick. Like I know we were all on our high horse last year. I'd argue that the team still probably overperformed given the circumstances from last season. Like we had three good starting pitchers. 40% of our rotation was terrible the entire season. It was a hodgepodge of Dustin May, Walker Buehler, Richard Fitz, Hunter Dobbins, just in and out. Houck was healthy to start the year, and his ERA was at like 8 or something. So like 2 out of 5 days, we were just not giving ourselves a chance rotation wise. And that's not on Cora. Those guys weren't major league pitchers that we were relying on to be the fourth guy in the rotation. And then that's not to mention that Devers gets dealt 60 games into the season. Bregman misses 50 games during the heart of the season. Casas, torn Achilles, out for the entire year. Roman doesn't get called up till mid-season, and then he's out for the last like couple months of the season. Like all of those things were working against him, and they still won close to 90 games and made the playoffs and were in playoff position for most of the season. So like, to me, like he kind of did maximize that team. And I can go back and look at previous seasons and like, they didn't make the playoffs from 22 to 24, but I want to read some of this. These are all the guys that started games during the span of those 3 years from a pitching perspective. Nick Pivetta, 1 season of Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, Nathan Eovaldi, who couldn't really stay healthy, and then they ended up letting him walk for parts of that. Cutter Crawford, Brian Bayo has been inconsistent. Josh Winkowski, James Paxton, who retired after he tore his Achilles or whatever it was. Tanner Houck, who's had 1 good year, and outside of that has been just pretty much a mess. Chris Sale, who, has probably started less than 35 games over those 3 years. Garrett Whitlock, who was a disaster in the rotation. Cooper Criswell was like 15 plus starts 1 year. Martin Perez, Garrett Richards, Eduardo Rodriguez, who has just not been very good since then. I know that's a lot of names.
Hold on, Sean. I'm waiting for one more name that you haven't given yet. I'm waiting for the Corey Kluber drop.
Oh God, I forgot about him. He might have been 2020, wasn't he? Wasn't that the year Cora was out? So
I don't know. That was terrible.
I don't know. But regardless,
Corey Kluber,
that is the totality of the starting pitchers they had over those 3 years. I didn't leave out like some good ones just to prove a point. Like that was it. So to sit here and say for over those 3 years that Cora was supposed to get that group to the postseason any of those 3 years, like you are kidding yourself if you think that's the case. Like that they had non-competitive rotations for 3 straight years. They finally get the ace and immediately vault into the postseason. And then this year they come into the year with on paper a better rotation, but they've completely swung the other way with the lineup and the rotation where just the lineup. Like they just don't have the offense now. And so I know that the shelf life thing is a thing, but my point is that I think the reason his voice got stale, if that's what people think, or the reason that his expiration date was coming up was not because anything he did or a lack of, buy-in from his voice like on its own. It's the wear and tear mentally that he had from the front office, just giving him the poo-poo platter roster year after year after year. And so that's what makes me so mad. Not so much the fact that he is actually not the manager anymore based on where we're at. It's that the front office let it get to this point. And we've said that about so many other things. And it's like, if they had just done their job and put the talent that we needed on this roster, then I think Cora would still be very like rejuvenated and, 2018, 2021 version of him that we saw, because he would have belief and buy-in in the roster. And I don't think he had that. And I don't blame him because I don't have it most of these years either. So sorry, that was long-winded, but it's so frustrating.
Let me give you the right window argument. And this argument comes from both some of this. I believe in a little bit of it. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate. So the Sox said at the end of last season, Kennedy and Breslow both, they both said that this was a window of contention with a young core. Right, 4 weeks into the window of contention season before today, they're 10-17, say 11-17, code red. And you ask the question, you either trust the players or you blow up the staff. Breslow, of course, has to choose blowing up the staff, because if he blows up if he doesn't trust the players, then it looks poorly on him. Don't get this twisted. Breslow is desperate right now because if they don't turn this around, he's gone next. If you look at his 3 predecessors, boom, Dombrowski, Harrington, they lasted 4 seasons or less. And this is year 3 for Breslow. His job is on the line. He's desperate. Like I said, the same way Joe Shane was desperate with the New York Giants. Cora is a great manager on the right team. But he became the wrong manager for this team for no fault of his own, for things that you have said. You put him on the New York Mets this year, if he ends up over in the New York Mets, he will turn that team around. The 2018 group was a veteran-laden, accountable, championship tested, and this 2026 team is built around 22 to 25-year-olds. The energy of this group, in my opinion, needs something different. And you're seeing that hopefully with the Tracy segment as well, is that, the one thing Cora and his team hasn't done, and I don't know who brought Andrew Bailey here, if Cora has a say in Bailey and the rest of his staff. Maybe he had no say. But they have yet to be able to develop a young talent all the way through. And look, that's okay. That's okay. You can still be a great manager and not be great at everything. Like I said, you put him on the New York Mets or you put him on a team that has a championship caliber to him, he's going to be one of the best managers out there. But he has yet to show that with a young core team, he's able to bring them through, like Roman Anthony, and Anthony's been struggling, like Marcelo Meyer. I mean, I was frustrated so many times when Meyer got pinch hit for, where we talked about in earlier pods, where we said that he needs to learn how to hit left-handed pitchers. He is a top 5 pick that becomes a platoon player, and you never develop him. And then today they left him in, and he gets that base hit, RBI, single, past the shortstop. And so that's why I said, like, as great as Cora is, if this wants to be a young team, I don't know if Cora's the right guy for this team. With that being said, though, Sean, and I'm being long-winded too.
You're good.
I don't know if the talent's there either, right? It's a combination of both. That's why I want the house to be cleaned, because you got no talent on that lineup. Outside the young guys, you're asking Roman Anthony to carry this whole damn team, and you're asking him to also bring these players along. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to disagree a little. I'm going to disagree
Okay.
a little bit on that he didn't develop anybody. I thought Rafael Devers turned into a perennial Silver Slugger candidate every single year, one
Fair.
of the 5 best third basemen in baseball, and that directly coincided when his first full season, if we want to call it full season, played 121 games. It was 2018, which was Cora's first year. And he didn't have a particularly great year. The one year Cora wasn't there either, only 263 average, which was the lowest he had in his entire career in Boston. I also would argue that, Xander Bogaerts, who, had some pretty good years pre-Cora, but by far had his best years with Cora at the helm. If you just look at his stats down the line, he had again, some pretty good years before, but he really unlocked the power aspects for him. So I don't know. I'm not saying he's been perfect in that way, but can you point me to a prospect that got called up during his tenure that was supposed to pan out that didn't? You know what I mean? I don't know if they've had a lot of these guys that have come up. You could say Casas maybe, but he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So
Bobby Dahlbeck? God, I hate Bobby Dahlbeck so much too. I got so much flack. I used to hate the way I hate Caleb Durbin's the way I hated Bobby Dahlbeck, and people want to fight me over Bobby Dahlbeck. But there's one guy for you.
But yeah, but it's not like Dahlbeck was some top 100 prospect or anything. He was but my point is just that if you're gonna criticize him for not developing guys, then you have to show counter examples of times where he didn't develop somebody that he was supposed to, which I don't know if I can point to that either. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, that I think he's probably best on a talented team, which of course it's easy to say, well, everybody would be best on a talented team, but I actually don't agree with that. I think there's some managers that actually probably are worse with a talented group because of the pressure and just all of that. He obviously has been great in that capacity when he has had the talent. And honestly, 2018, obviously they were super talented. 2019, you could say that they underperformed, which is totally fair. But I'd argue there's not a single season since 2019 where the team underperformed. They've had some 78 win seasons, but to me, I watch through the pitchers. How are you supposed to be competitive with that type of rotation year after year? And I don't know. I understand what you're saying about how he's a good manager, but not the best manager for this team. And I think that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I'm not pissed that he's not the manager anymore for this team. I'm pissed that it is the franchise's own doing that he became not the best manager for this team. That's what I'm pissed about.
You know what I'm pissed about? I'm pissed about that these Andrew Bailey survived the purge. that Chris Holt, the bullpen coach, survived the purge, that Parker Gwynn, the catching instructor, survived the purge. How did these guys not get fired along with Cora? Because I am not a big fan of Andrew Bailey's pitching lab. I've talked about it on the pod before. He works well with certain pitchers, and certain pitchers he cannot get the best out of them. Harrison and Priester are great examples. And you're looking at this team. I know if you look at the underlying metrics on Crochet, that they are not as bad as a 7.58 ERA, but you look at the starting pitchers. Brian Bayo has been a disaster, and that's on. Yes, Cora's got to be accountable for it, but so is Andrew Bailey. Yeah. Disaster. Crochet has not come ready to pitch. Suarez, who was a guy that you were not big on, and I gave you credit so far, has not come ready to pitch. Their best pitcher
has been
early. Yeah.
By far. Not even close.
Sonny
But
Gray,
that's my point.
Injured.
It is not Cora's fault that Crochet gave up 11 runs in Minnesota and has a 6.3 ERA. It is not Cora's fault that Bayo gave up 13 hits the other day and has a 9.00 ERA. It is not Cora's fault that it's not Cora's fault that Suarez has gotten through the fifth inning one time so far this season. Like, sure, I get what you're saying. I get it. He's the manager. I understand. But I think baseball is it's a unique sport where the manager's job is, and I think that's why they call it a manager and not a coach in baseball. It's a little different than a head coach in basketball, where you're actually drawing up plays, and same in football where you're calling plays. Like, baseball they are a manager because they're managing the game. Once the players are on the field, like, it's kind of out of their control. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a slightly different role than a head coach comparatively in other sports, where like he's trying to put them in the best position to perform once they get on the field. But it's like, what's he supposed to say or do with Brian Bayo? That's like, if anything, the coaching aspect, that's Andrew Bailey's job. You know what I mean? Like, it's Cora's job to identify this guy doesn't have it today, and now I need to yank him and pull those sort of strings. But I'm like, I could do that. I could be in the dugout and be like, Bayo doesn't have it today. I can tell you that. You know, like, he does.
Well, that's the tough luck. That's tough luck being a manager. You still have to be. That's why you're the manager. You have to be accountable for all facets of it. But again, my argument, my frustration, why I was like, yes, I do think Cora needed to go because of the shelf life, that discussion. I also felt like last year when you started seeing the Alex Bregman conversation about how great he was culturally in the clubhouse to bring these guys along. I started thinking about last year. I said, we talked about in the pod over the winter too. I said, has Cora lost the clubhouse to a certain extent, right? He didn't lose them because you saw how upset they were when he got fired, which is very interesting, not to go on a tangent, but something we also talked about in the offseason on this pod too, was that completely different reaction when Devers was traded by the same people.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. So when Devers was gone, like, yeah, I got a game to play. When Cora gets fired, everyone's upset. It just tells you a little bit about the clubhouse as well. But I was wondering, with Bregman having such a major force on that, in that clubhouse and team guys, what's the culture that Cora was establishing, and maybe he wasn't.
But Bregman was also a Cora guy. That's the thing, though. Like, Cora,
Bregman was a Cora guy. Yeah,
they wouldn't have signed Bregman if Cora hadn't pushed that. That's what I'm saying. Yes. But Cora was correct about that. We should have him on. It was a good signing, and we should have him on the team right now. But
he
we don't.
fought Kennedy and Breslow on it.
I know, and that's one other thing I want to bring up too, which you talked about the previous regimes with Dombrowski. This feels a little similar to that. Obviously, it's not. I mean, that was the year after they won the World Series, but just in the sense of like a proven, very, very well respected person in the industry. Like, Dave Dombrowski has just had success in his career. Alex Cora, very highly respected in his career. And I'm just saying, when you move on from these guys, more often than not, the guy does just fine, and it's the franchise that looks silly after that. Like, we fired Dombrowski probably prematurely, in my opinion, and all he's done since he took over the Phillies was take a 82-80 team to 87 wins in a World Series appearance, 90 wins in the NLCS, 95 wins in a division championship, and 96 wins in the division championship. Those are the 4 seasons that Dave Dombrowski has been the GM for the Phillies. I know they're off to a terrible start this year. They're actually rumored. Sure. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that, like in retrospect, we look like idiots. I actually went back and looked at this, like, to prep for this, and I like kind of had forgotten that they literally fired him in 2019, like before the season was over, less than a year from the World Series. Like, that's insane in retrospect. He put together the best Red Sox team, like, maybe ever, and less than a year later, because they kind of underperformed, they canned him. Like, that's insane to me in retrospect, and we haven't been able to backfill him and find someone that's been as good as him. And I know the resources haven't been quite the same as what he had at his disposal, but I'm just worried that the same kind of thing can happen. And I get the shelf life thing, but like everyone likes Tracy. Like I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a ton about him. Like I know he's been in the minor leagues. He's well respected in the organization. People say he's a great guy, and maybe he is the answer, but maybe he's not. There's probably 50% of managers across Major League Baseball in any given year that are kind of just replacement level managers. And when you get a really good one, I just feel like it's silly to not try to hold on to it and make it work. I don't know. It's really frustrating. And I'm like, I know Cora has had his downfalls in terms of like some things that we don't like. We think Story probably shouldn't play shortstop anymore. He should be second baseman. We want Yoshida in the lineup more. Like we think Rafaela can play some second base if we want to maximize the positional thing. Like I get all of that, but do you really think Tracy's going to like move Story to second base? I don't. I'd be shocked if he did.
Will not happen. Politics will not allow it, nor will his agent.
Exactly. Like all of those things, I just think are not Cora problems. They're just like you mentioned, kind of like political things that are just kind of like, they just are what they are. And so, that's really the only like criticism of Cora is those kind of nitpicky things. And I'm like, but I don't even think that's in his control, or like, I don't think it's like the next guy is going to come in majorly shake it up. And so what do you want from him? I don't know. The whole situation is just, it's very much annoyed me.
I can go either way with this one. And I'm going to play a game with you called Who is Chad Tracy? So I did some research on Chad Tracy prior to this segment. He's 40 years old, looks just like Craig Breslow. He lives in Fairfield, Ohio, suburb of Cincinnati. Wife, Emily, 2 kids, daughter, Avery, 11, son, Austin, that's 7. I really did some deep digging onto him. Very, very interesting. There's actually a Cora Tracy bloodline that has not been talked about yet. But really quick, he played 8 pro seasons in the Rangers, Rockies, and Royal systems, but never played in the majors. He started in the Angel systems. He was hired by Kyan Bloom to manage AAA Worcester in December of 2021, and he stayed under Breslow. He has a career minor league manager record of 499 wins. His Worcester record is 323 to 296. Winning record every full season. The Red Sox were 14-11 to start the 2026 season, tied for first in the Independence League East. Baseball America's best managerial prospects in both 2023 and 2024. And here's the bloodline I think is interesting. So his father is Jim Tracy, managed in MLB for 11 seasons, Dodgers from 01 to 05, Pirates, and Rockies. He was the NL Manager of the Year, 2 postseasons appearances. Here's a fun stat. When Jim managed the Dodgers in early 2000, Alex Cora was an infielder on his team. So that's the full circle part right there. And then, this is why it's you see why Craig went with Tracy. He has personally managed almost every young player on the current roster, back to the development part of it. That's why he's, Breslow's desperate. Anthony Meyer, Campbell, who's in Worcester, Brand, Abreu, Rafaela, Toley, Bayo in a rehab assignment. I count it. Connor Wong, and Crawford, both in rehab assignments. So this is a guy that they at least feel like understands and knows the team, which is why they brought him in, and has already worked with these guys as well. Again, desperate. Breslow is desperate to save his job, and we'll see. I don't have an opinion just like you whether or not he's going to be a good manager or not.
I think it would be silly for either of us to come on and say we have a strong opinion, because I don't know what that would be based off. You know what I mean? It's like it's his first time in the majors, so like I think we're both optimistic and we're rooting for him. And like I said, it's all been positive narratives from people that have been around him and stuff. But it's like until we see results, like I don't feel strongly positively, but I don't feel strongly negative either. I mean, how could you, just because we haven't seen the body of work?
We know he's been able to get the most out of Anthony, Meyer, and Campbell down in AAA. Actually, recently, Campbell's on his hit safety has 17 out of the last 18 games. So there's a hope that he can flip the switch with this team. I know we don't know, but he's been able to do it before at a much different level. But he's at least been able to understand what motivates these players. John, I want to focus on the press conference today. Did you watch any of it?
I watched like highlights of clips. I did not watch it in full, but I'm pretty sure I got the gist of what I needed to.
I'm going to give you a couple of quotes of my translation of them, and I'll give it over to you to tell me what you think of it. First quote, it's a key Breslow quote on the decision. Performance on the field has not been what we expected. And beyond that, again. This is a decisive and convicted demonstration of the confidence we have in our player group. By translation, we're not blaming the players. We think they can play. The staff couldn't get it out of them. Is that what you think too? Is that what that means to you?
Yes, but I also think there's an underlying, like, again, I know he's not going to sit here and bash the players because, like, that's a bad look too, because you don't want to, like, throw them under the bus because at the end of the day, they're still on the team. But to me, that also screams lack of accountability. He's basically saying, like, I did my job. I put together a good team. He can't get the most out of it. When the reality is, we talked about this a bunch, the dude had 4 different quotes across 4 different months of the offseason talking about we're going to add a big power bat. And they never did it. They never did it. And
Caleb Durbin.
Exactly. No, but that's what I'm saying is, like, there's no accountability. And then like, you can't outwardly say that's a goal, not achieve it, and then later be like, well, actually, we think we have enough in house. I'm like, I know you don't believe that because why wouldn't you have said that at the start of the offseason yet? So there's no accountability from Breslow whatsoever. He basically self-admitted that he didn't add a guy that he wanted to. And then now he's saying we have full belief in the roster and that we think it's a really good roster. And I'm like, well, I bet you think that because you put it together.
Durbin batting 7th again today. I'm willing to say now that Cora was forced to put him in this lineup because Tracy batted 7th again. A guy who I don't understand how he's not had a day off. He's like 1 day off all year, and they consistently play him. Yeah, 1 day off. They've consistently played him, which is that has to be coming from Breslow and the front office, forcing the manager to put him in, not where he puts him in the lineup, but that he has to play. So I don't know. I have no proof. I have no one telling me otherwise, but Craig is definitely doubling down and telling them that Craig believes this group of individuals that he's assembled is talented, and if they can't get the most out of them, it's on the manager, which me and you both say is bullshit, and that we both know that the majority of this roster is not built to be a Major League Baseball roster to win games. That bottom 7 through 9 is not, you don't see that in the Dodgers or the Yankees. You don't see that on I don't know, name another team that's competitive. Like, you're not seeing that on the Guardians.
Padres.
You're not seeing that on the Mariners. Like, it's
Braves.
terrible.
Yeah. It is, and then another thing is, similar to the quote you just gave, he mentioned that, the players haven't, the quote he used is like to their normal track record. And I'm like, a lot of these guys don't have a track record.
Have a track record.
That's what I'm saying. He's like, they're not
Nailed
playing
it.
to their normal track record. I'm like, what track record are you referring to? Like, Durbin is a great example of that. I'm like, you mean when he batted 250 last year with like 10 homers? Like, is that the track record you're referring to? And then his sample size of 1 season, like at Narvaez, again, pretty good last year, but like sample size of 1 season. Wilyer Abreu, platoon player throughout his career. Like, I don't understand what track record he's talking about for these guys. Like, the whole problem or one of the whole problems with the roster that we've talked about, like, to no end, is that we don't have any guys that have track records. Like, that is kind of the issue here, is that like Wilson Contreras and Trevor Story and I guess Duran to an extent are really the only 3 guys that have a quote unquote track record at all. And, Contreras has been pretty, like, he's probably been the best hitter aside Wilyer. And then, Story's been awful, but like, sure, Story was good last year, but what is this, year 5 out of 6? Like, he's had 1 good year in 5 years. Like, at what point was last year the outlier and not the track record?
I'm so ready to move on from Duran too. I mean, I know you made the point earlier that he's got to be the guy.
I'm getting there soon, yeah. But again,
After
it's like
today, after when they came and they wanted a quote from him in his locker room and he was annoyed and wouldn't face the media, and Roman Anthony has to be the mature at 21 years old, the guy that has to be the face of this franchise. We're asking so much out of Roman Anthony. Like, I'm just done with Duran's attitude, and I want him out of the clubhouse. I just want him out of the clubhouse. I respect for what he did a couple years ago. He's a decent baseball player. He's just not for me. I want him gone. I have no hatred towards him. I'm just done with him.
yeah.
How do we get you there, Sean?
I mean, he's been bad this year, just from like his play, but I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. If they trade him now, the value is probably going to be pretty awful.
You'll get Jordan Hicks for him. That's what you'll get.
But I guarantee you, if they trade him in the next month, I'm going to be pissed about it because the return is going to be shit. And it's going to be one of those complete misplays by Breslow once again. It's like, if you were going to trade him, then you should have done it when he had more value. And it's just this, it's not like you thought this problem wasn't going anywhere. You knew you had a logjam. And so why wait and risk it that he's batting 198 on the season with 1 homer. Like, you open up he can play well and play his way into more value, but you're also opening up the opportunity for him to play poorly and lose value. And he's even further away from what he was in 2024. And so it's like,
I'm not sure he can lose more value than he's lost so far this season. Like, this is probably the
well,
rock
no,
bottom.
I'm saying if they had traded him in the offseason, he's probably lost more value now since then. But that's what I'm saying, is that, like, if they were convicted in needing to move him, like, you can't move him just because he's batting 198 now. It's like, that was always a risk that was going to be, like, possible coming into the year. So it's like, if they knew they wanted to or planned to move him down the road, it's like they should have just done it in the offseason. And, I don't know what the offers looked like, but, like, even one of the ones we did our Duran trade package ideas, like, one of the ones that you didn't even like that much, I had him going to the Dodgers for, like, and this is before they signed Kyle Tucker, so they probably wouldn't have been interested anymore. But, like, for, like, a guy like Dalton Rushing, who you weren't super
I
high
want
on.
Dalton Rushing so bad.
He's batting 400. He's batting 400 with 8 homers, and he plays every third day. I'm like, who we would love to have?
I would
Dalton
love
Rushing.
Dalton Rushing.
I would be. Yeah. I do not believe for a second we couldn't have had it. You know what I mean? If we called them up, be like, what I proposed was, like, Tanner Scott and Dalton Rushing for Jarren Duran. That deal's not happening now, obviously, because they have a pretty crowded outfield
And
as is, and Rushing.
Diaz out for 3 months, whatever it is. Yeah,
exactly. But I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of thing where I'm like, that deal was definitely could have been on the table if they really wanted it. And now they're like, it's completely not even a consideration for them, probably just because
Dalton
of the
Rushing
current
has
situation.
been phenomenal.
He's been so good.
Phenomenal.
And him and Narvaez would have been an awesome pairing behind the plate with offense and defense.
I agree.
Rushing also could play first base or DH a little bit. He's been playing first base for the Dodgers a bit. I'm like, that is, like, and he's young and, like, under team control. So, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the offers were, but I'm sure there was something out there where they could have salvaged something. And now it just feels like it's going to be a disaster. It just feels like they're going to wait. And I mean, I don't think they can trade him now just because they have to try to let him get his play up a little bit, I think. But again, it's pretty hard when the guy's not playing every single day because he's going to have off days with the log jam. And then he's also playing DH some days, left field some days, center field some days. It's hard to get into a groove when you've got just a moving target on what is going to, every single day he shows up to the clubhouse not knowing if he's playing, what position he's playing, or what order or where in the batting order he's going to be. That's just not setting a guy up for success.
I want to give you one more quote from today's presser, and I want to actually maybe finish this segment with some good news about how all the young guys have been performing on the farm. So if they ever do make it up with Chad Tracy, hopefully that's a positive. Kennedy on Breslow's role. Craig leads our baseball operation, and he's made several bold decisions and recommendations, and this was one of them, and we fully support it. My translation, ownership has Breslow's back. Henry and Kennedy publicly stamped this as Breslow's call. That's significant. When this was done last June, the Devers trade, it was framed similarly bullshit. And I'm not a Henry guy at all. But the fact of the matter, and you heard it with Kennedy today, is that there is autonomy within the Fenway Sports Group. People, and you heard the word empowered, which is something that my corporation uses a lot as well. The idea of being empowered. They allow the people to do their jobs. We have just had a problem, and this is on Henry's accountability. Henry has not found the right people to do their jobs. He's done a terrible job putting people in place, whether it's him or Kennedy. It might probably is more on Kennedy of who he actually is putting in. But again, this is not Henry or Kennedy meddling in the affairs of Craig Breslow, Kyan Bloom, Charrington. They allow them to do their jobs, and they've done their jobs poorly. And I would arguably say they've had a large enough budget to be able to do their jobs well. So anyone out there who tries to tell me this is all on John Henry, it's bullshit. This is all on Craig Breslow.
I agree. Yeah, I think some of it's on Henry, but I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think my read on what happens is Henry has a budget number, and he's like, you can do literally whatever you want below this budget number. And I do think that's true. And so the bigger issue is that Breslow has done a poor job of allocating those assets in the right places. You know, he's overpaid on things he shouldn't have, and he's lowballed things he probably should have paid for. And that is just the reality of the situation. And to your point, I mean, the Red Sox are a top 7 payroll team, so it's not like they're completely skimping out. But I mean, I do think Henry still has some fault, just in the sense that, like, why is he setting such a hard budget line? And the best teams in the majors and the biggest brands are willing to spend their way out of mistakes. And the Red Sox haven't done that. And so it makes the margin for error on a guy like Breslow really, really thin. Like if the Ranger Suarez, which we've talked about, if that deal ends up being a really bad one, like Craig's fucked. That is like $30 million a year just sitting on the payroll that he's not going to be able to be like, well, I'll just give $30 million to the next guy and we'll figure it out. Like that's not going to happen. And that part of it does come back to Henry. And look, there's still 15 to 20 other major league franchises that are in the same boat that can't spend their way out of those sort of things too, but they just don't give out those deals in the first place. But it's just a shame because we're the Red Sox and we should be able to do that. And that's kind of been the frustration with Henry. But to your point, I think it is still more on Breslow, and he has just been the person I have the number one gripe with because all of this stuff to me comes back to him. And again, it is not just the personnel moves. We've talked about that ad nauseum. It is the just lack of effective communication, the lack of relationship management between him and the manager, between him and the players, between him and agents, between him and free agents, like all of this stuff. Like all we've heard is negative stuff about how he has not been able to communicate properly. And I still firmly believe that Devers would still be on this team if he had just had a conversation with him earlier in the offseason before they signed Bregman. Like I will die on that hill. And to me, that comes back to just like Craig could not figure out how to approach that in a way that was productive.
Yeah, but he's been terrible this year. Remember, the best thing they ever did was get rid of him. He's been
Yeah,
worse than Caleb Durbin.
Sure.
I know, I'm just breaking your balls on that one.
But also, I think a lot of that has to do with the ballpark they were in. He absolutely mashed in Fenway. He would mashed in Yankee Stadium, which he'd be playing a lot of his games in. He did well. Camden Yards, also a hitter-friendly park. Oracle Park, that's the Giants, right? Like that is a pitcher-friendly ballpark. And so, like, there's a reason they hadn't had a 30 home run hitter since Barry Bonds before last year. Like, it's just a harder park to hit in. And so we can sit here and say he's had a down year, which he obviously still has had a down year. He's on my fantasy team and he's been not helping me out at all. But the point is just that, like, I like him a hell of a lot more as a hitter in Fenway than I do at Oracle.
You talked about the Red Sox being able to spend their way out of mistakes. This is why I also don't blame it on Henry, because you've allowed, I'm telling you, Henry's not making the decisions. We said it, the budget. The Red Sox have spent their way into mistakes where a lot of smaller teams wouldn't even taken that gamble, and none of them have worked out well. Right? That's a gamble that no one's taken if you're a smaller market team that the Red Sox have taken. Sonny Gray's contract, which is crazy, but they allowed him to take that one. IKF for $6 million a year, we talked about as well. And that's why I'm saying, well, yeah, I hear what you're saying about they'd spend their way out of mistakes, but they're also spending their way into mistakes as well.
Yeah,
like these ones, like it's one thing
that's what I'm saying,
like
though,
sound like a
is
John,
that,
but to sound like a John Lackey, right? A John Lackey was a good player that just was piss poor and he found a way around it. Sandoval wasn't a good player. He was injured. IKF was not a good. There was nothing about those guys that we should have ever even taken the gamble on to then try to spend your way out of it. You find like the difference between is that when you get a guy like Denny Nagel, John Lackey, Chris Davis back in the day, like they were productive enough that they warranted the contract and you find your way out of it. These guys weren't even good and you just gave them money. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. I know what you're trying to say.
No, but
I'm saying what you're saying.
No, I agree with you. But my point is why Breslow has been so bad is that when he has like invested heavily financially, it's always on the wrong guys. Like the people he has spent on are people he shouldn't have, and the people he has decided to not spend on are people he probably should have. And that's the issue is when it comes down to it, he just makes bad personnel decisions. It's I don't know. It's just so many like not re-signing Schwarber. I guess was that Heim Bloom actually?
That was
okay.
That's
Well, Bloom was a little the same, to be honest with you. That was after 2021.
That was Bloom. That was 2021,
okay.
And that's when they had a shot. We all knew their bullpen was terrible. And after Hunter Renfroe had a very good year, they traded Renfroe for JBJ, and then we went over the luxury tax because of that, and it was just an absolute shit show. To finish the show up, I do want to focus on some positive thing. Look, if I can give Breslow any credit, and I'm trying to find some credit, is that he does do a great job of building pitching prospects in the minor leagues. We watched it with Tolley, and Tolley had a great start against the Yankees, and watching that collapse happen There's another reason why I wanted Cora gone, because I could not take one more time Greg Weisser coming into a high leverage. I get it. It's more than just Greg Weisser coming to a high leverage situation because he scored no runs on it. But Tolley has 11 strikeouts against the Yankees and lose that game. Early's pitched well. Tolley's pitched well. Franklin Arias is absolutely raking it down in AAA. He's 20 years old, and we both said earlier in the pod that we thought he was probably going to be a bust and trade him now. And the guy looks like Barry Bonds down there. 10.1% strikeout rate, elite contact with a ton of power. The guy actually I want to actually end on, and again, we've not talked about it, so I'm not sure how versed you are on him. We could pivot if you aren't. Is Anthony? I always want to call his name Ianson. That's not how you say it. It's Anthony Ianson. Have you tracked him at all?
I do not know much about him now.
So I think he's gone 24 innings now. He just went 4 2/3 with no hit innings down in high A out of. He's LSU. 3rd round pick out of LSU. Been absolutely phenomenal. 16 innings pitched. This is all from my memory. 16 innings pitched, 29 strikeouts, not a single walk, and hitting like 99 miles per hour. So it's a guy to keep your eye on. Is there anyone that you want to talk about, Sean, that you've been following down on the farm or AAA?
No, I mean, Arias was going to be the guy I brought up that I know he's been absolutely killing it down there, and especially the power. Was he have 8 home runs or something like that at this point?
He had a pinch hit home run that did to win the game for him. It was yesterday, 2 days ago.
Which you and I had talked about that kind of being we were a little lower on his ceiling because, if he's not going to be more than a 10 to 15 home run guy, then there's just a upper bound on how impactful you can be as a player. So we both said in the offseason he'd be a guy that we would trade if the opportunity presented itself. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any big moves that get made like for a big impact guy that would involve someone like Arias at this point, unless things drastically change. But maybe we were premature on that because he's batting like 400 plus or something like that as well.
He stated a public goal to make it to the big leagues in 2026. Mm-hmm. Do you see that happening? Could he challenge Durbin for third base?
I think it's possible. Yeah, I mean, he's batting 407 right now. I just pulled up 7 home runs. Yeah, I can't rule it out just because we have, I mean, where did Tolley start last year? Like single A? I mean,
Greenville.
Yeah. And then Roman also did he start was he in AAA to start the year last year?
Double A.
Or double. Yeah, double. That's what I'm saying. So there is a examples of when guys have started in double A. Yeah.
Nomar never went to AAA. A lot of players.
I'm pretty sure Mookie was also similar, like played like a week or two in AAA and that got called up too. So like these guys, I mean, if he's going to continue to play like that, like I could see him getting called up in a way like where we've talked about Durbin, like he has options to get sent to AAA. Like it's still early, but like if we reach June and he is batting under 210, I don't know what to tell you. 1 homer and it's off a position player. Like, so, yeah, I certainly think there's opportunity for him to get called up. And I mean, we'll see. This year is still early, but there is a real possibility that this season turns into a developmental season.
I'm marking it down right now. Franklin Arias will be on this team. By June 17th, he will be on this team, and Durbin will be in Worcester. That's my thought process. I mean, who else? Because they can't send anyone else down. You're stuck with IKF. I wish they had the balls to DFA him. That's what they should do. I know. But I mean, I don't know. $6 million? They're eating, yeah. I mean, they're eating $7.6 million of Cora salary.
Yeah, well.
So eat $6 million of IKFs.
Well, the fact they're eating $7 million of Cora makes it even less likely they're going to eat 6 of IKF.
Unless IKF is willing to take the assignment and go down to AAA because no one's going to pick him up. I can't imagine him on any team, even for free. Even the Rockies won't pick him up. Or I can't even, like the Rockies or the Marlins, I can't see any team out there that would legitimately say, I'm going to take IKF. Because a good team is not going to want to pick him up, and a bad team is going to want to play their prospects to a certain degree, the younger players. So there's an opportunity where they'll read the room, where they might be able to DFA him, and he passes through waivers and accepts the assignment in AAA, or his agent tells him to cut bait and go.
Yeah. But I'll say this, though, about the season in general. Like, I hope they turn it around, obviously. But if they don't, then I hope they lean heavy in the other direction and they give all the young guys all the playing time, have Tolley and early in the rotation till the end of the season, no matter what, call up Arias, call up Christian Campbell, like all of that. I mean, we're a while away from talking about like selling or buying at this point because it's so early. But I'm like, if they are as bad as their record says, then like, I do not want Story on this team at the end of the year. I do not want Durant on this team at the end of the year, like all of that stuff. So we've got a long way before we talk about that. But my head did start to go there recently, and which is sad this early in the season.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're, it's all on Tracy now. It's all in his hands. Hopefully be able to get these young guys to play. And there might be a youth movement happening, everything that you're talking about, and that might be part of the plan. All right, Sean, go ahead.
The last thing I was going to say, and this sounds bad because I am a diehard fan. I want them to always succeed, but there's a tiny part of me that like kind of wants them to keep losing, just to like shove it to Craig and be like, you are the problem, not Cora. Just because like I said, I've been a Cora guy, and I just feel like he was a scapegoat and a casualty of incompetence in the front office. And I just want them to be held accountable. Because like last year with the Devers thing, it was so annoying because like, obviously, I'm glad they turned it around, but because they turned it around, he was justified to be like, well, yep, I told you that was the right move. And like, I just like, if it happens again, I'm going to be like, just because they turned it around, I doesn't mean it's because Cora was gone. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of like, there's just a small part of me that wants them to keep struggling just to be like, you can't just keep blaming everybody else and shipping people out of town. Like at some point you are the problem.
I feel the same way that you do, because Breslow will not be gone unless this team struggles. And if this team doesn't struggle and they find a way to be, you're stuck with more Breslow. And I'll be honest with you, this brand of baseball is boring. And I made a tweet before
I hate watching
about
this team.
So boring.
Before the Cora firing, I was ready to come on here and be like, this team sucks. Like they suck. And I don't like watching them. And when the other team scores 3 runs in the first inning, I'm like, well, this game's over. It's like they have no ability to make comebacks. As soon as the other team gets a 3-run lead, it's like it's over. And it's like there's absolutely no optimism when you're watching them to be like, they win games 2 ways, and it's like 3-1 games, or like today was like 5-3 or whatever. Or they have these bullshit like games like yesterday where they score a bunch of runs, but it's like fake run. It's just like garbage time runs where they pad the stats, and it's like they've had a couple like that where like I forget who they did against, but there was another game where they were up like 4-1 and then scored like 7 in one of the late innings, and I'm like, that's just fake runs. I don't want to see that. Like use those when we actually need to make a comeback or something. Every game's been almost decided by the 5th inning on both directions, so it's just like they're not fun to watch at all.
I have marketing background by trade, and I made a tweet before that for a marketer, if someone wants to market a brand, a product, you play off emotion, both positively and negatively, right? If people are positive about something, I can use that. If people are very negative about the Red Sox, they're still engaged, and I could use that too.
Yeah.
We got to a point of apathy until that firing happened. And when you're at apathy and you're disengaged from the Red Sox completely, that's the worst thing that can happen to John Henry and Craig Breslow, which is why I actually believe why they moved on from Cora when they did, is because they were losing when you're John Henry looking at a business, an organization, of what your net worth or your value of your organization is, and you got a lot of your fan base just being disengaged, those are people that are no longer paying attention to your brand. And that's the worst thing that can happen. I'd rather have them be pissed off at me and be engaged than for them just not to care anymore. And we were watching it, like to your point, like it was just hard to even come on here and do a show with the way things were going, because the whole Red Sox nation just had nothing but apathy towards this team, because we're just done. We don't want to be engaged anymore. I'm going to find other things to do with my summer than watch or bitch about the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll still watch.
All right, Sean, that wraps it up.
It.
No, that wraps it up. I think we'll be able to do one more show next week. Then I'm bringing the kids to Disney World. So I'll be out from May 3rd to the 10th. So we can plan something up.
Sounds good.
Red Sox, my opinion, they're going to go on a hot streak after today. Continue it. Will be, how many more games they have left? Probably 5. They have 5 games left in this week before we go next Saturday. Let's see, what day they probably have tomorrow off. What do they have?
No, they play tomorrow. They got the Jays for a 3-game set, Thursday off, and then Astros over the weekend. So 6 games.
Ugh, who swept us and were worse than us, actually.
Yeah.
My prediction by Sunday, 5 games, 4-1.
6 games, 3-3.
6 games.
With Blue Jays and Astros. Savage is making his debut. We got Cease tomorrow, and then Scherzer, who's got a 9 ERA.
Nice. Well, if we have Bayo facing him, it should be one hell of a game.
It is Bayo facing him, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We should have one hell of a game.
It's and the Red Sox have become the get right team, which I heard someone say, and I could not agree with more. It's like,
they 100%
Scherzer
are.
you're
I said
struggling.
today to my
Then
Yankee
what?
friend.
Yeah, I'm like, oh well, what a great matchup for you to have then to get back on track.
I'm gonna go with. I don't have any faith in Bayo, and it's gonna take some time for him to get under the belt. Is Tolley going tomorrow?
It is
Gotta be.
Suarez and Cease,
Tolley.
and then Tolley and Savage
I'm gonna give them.
in Toronto.
I want to go 5-1, but I don't think they will. 4-2, and I'll be happy with 4-2. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go 3-3, which is kind of a cop out, but
It is a cop
The
out.
split.
I wanted you to go 4-2
Fine.
or
I'll go-
5-1.
I'm gonna go. You
Or
want me?
under.
I'll go 2-4 then. We'll make
Okay,
3
that's
and
what I
3
wanted,
off
one
the
or the other.
table. I'll
Yeah,
go
I
2
didn't
and
want
4. I have
500.
no faith.
Okay.
I have watched enough of this team to. I mean, you said it's the second series win of the years. Why would I pick them to win 3 series in a row?
I believe in Chad Tracy. All right, Sean,
I don't
that
know.
wraps it
We'll
up for
see.
us. Good episode. I'll see you next week. Guys, thanks for those who listen. Please like and subscribe wherever you are. And me and Sean will come at you in 1 week. Thank you, guys.
60-40, a Red